for your time. Now, I'm sure you've been following this court case.
Yes,
now, obviously the defense in the firing line over his line of questioning, which has brought so many things to the fore, you know, highlighting re-victimization, highlighting trauma of some rape survivors that have to go to court. What is your take on his line of questioning in particular?
I think his line of questioning was very harsh at certain points in time. Look, he has to prove a case, obviously, so for his client, he has to look as if he's doing his work as well. But when we look at the victim, unfortunately, they become victimized and they become re-traumatized because of the whole line of questioning, and they become they're harassed by the line of questioning, by asking questions that no person being gone through that could actually even try to explain. Trauma has an implication in your life that you cannot always explain why you remember certain things or how it happened, but you know that it happened. So
now, what's negative about the line of questioning, I mean, experts have also raised this, even those that are in the legal fraternity space, to say that that line of questioning raises concerns just about other survivors who want to come forward, but because of Zondi's treatment could be discouraged, you know, from reporting it and secondly going through a trial.
Exactly, and that is why we have the problem of people not coming up and saying, look, I was raped or sexually harassed, because of the fact that they are just re-traumatized the whole time, and unfortunately they type of become the accused, if that makes sense, because they get hammered on their story they're telling to what happened to them, and that's wrong.
Yeah. Now, on the one side, somebody who is watching the trial sees the line of questioning from the defense attorney. Obviously, is frightened by this line of questioning. But on the other side, sees how strong Zondi is coming across and how articulate she is stating her case. This, too, could then bring a glimmer of light, so to speak, in terms of what happens, you know, when you are on trial, that you can actually take your power back.
For sure, for sure. So it has a twofold. Although you have power and you're standing strong and you're going through all of this, it does re-traumatize you. And you do relive a lot of the horrific things that you've gone through and that you have to, unfortunately, in detail, explain in a court of law. So it becomes very difficult for the victim to actually sit there and be strong. And you would have seen she broke down many times and was tearful and sad, and you could see it was physical trauma that she's reliving again, trying to please the defense in terms of his questioning.
Now, through your line of work, you've attended several court cases and you've been to trial. You also work very closely with rape survivors and their family. Just take us through the trauma. What goes through, you know, the life of a rape survivor, particularly days after they have come out and disclosed to somebody?
Normally, a lot of times they want to withdraw the case because they become so scared of everything they have to relive in a court of law. The second thing is that, you know, how do you ever prepare someone to actually go and stand there? Because first and foremost, you feel dirty. You feel ashamed, and this person has told you that it's your fault. You know, you've done this because either you've dressed that way or you've made them feel that they wanted to do it to you. So there's a lot of things that play a count in this. But the trauma, not just for the victim, but for the family, is very hard, because you have to be strong for the victim, and you have to try and not be emotional, because by being emotional, it doesn't always help. So it's just by standing there, being strong, and giving them support when they need it. Sometimes you don't need to say anything, you just need to give a hug.
Yeah, and I'm talking about that trauma. I mean, in Ms. Zondi's testimony, she just described the sheer trauma that she underwent when she was being asked things about, you know, why did you go back, etc. So she took us into, you know, her life during that time. I mean, one of the things that she said was she actually wanted to commit suicide. Let's actually take a listen to a clip of her saying, you know, that she actually wanted to commit suicide.
Yes.
I never had to tell my mom anything. She told me what she thought was bothering me. And with my mouth, verbally, I didn't say anything, I just nodded.
You nodded. So did she suggest to you that something had happened to you?
Yes, and she told me what she thought it was.
And what was that? Did she tell you she thought you had been sexually abused?
She told me that she thinks that this man did something to me.
And then whose idea was it for you to see the therapist? Was it her idea?
Yes, she consulted with my brother, and they both decided to take me to therapy.
And how many times did you see the therapist?
I would see her once a week for an hour, and then it did help me, but there came a point where I just became too overwhelmed. I tried to kill myself, and then I never went back to her after that attempt.
Now, to your point, you were talking earlier about just how important family is, you know, when somebody does come out and speak out. In her case, you know, her mom actually pointed it out that something had happened to you, and then she had to seek therapy. What goes on then after that, you know, after they've come out? What is in your line of work? What do you recommend for families to do, you know, for their loved ones?
Well, I think, you know, a lot of the shock comes out in court because the victim is not always very upfront with family prior to that because it's embarrassing. As I said earlier, they feel dirty, they feel ashamed. They're not sure how to deal with it themselves. So the important part is not to pressurize the victim, but to just be there, and when she wants to talk, to allow her to talk. Obviously, in therapy or in the court, much more comes out that we can't always divulge unless the victim allows us to divulge the information to family. But it is very traumatizing for them to actually have to relive it and to talk about it. Although talking does help with the trauma, it is very traumatizing for them to actually relive everything and to deal with the harsh treatment you get in a court of law.
Now, Ms. Zondi is 22 years old. We know that this happened when it started happening when she was 14 years old, allegedly. But despite that fact that she was 14 years old, I mean, we heard in court her being asked, you know, did she consent? I mean, that line of questioning surely for a 14-year-old consenting to any sexual act is wrong. And I mean, for a Doberman to, you know, insist on an answer from a 14-year-old, surely that is irresponsible. She was a child.
She was a child. All he's trying to prove is that it was consensual. And, you know, their line of questioning is to make it look as if she was in the whole time. It's just a questioning tactic they use, and they use it very often. You'd see it in a lot of cases that they do use that line of questioning.
And I mean, the case itself, it's shocked South Africa, you know, because these are 66 charges apparently that they are facing, you know, for human trafficking. In fact, it was a miracle for her and some of the girls to actually escape. Let's just take a listen to another clip from the court case.
I threw my bag outside of the window, the bathroom window from upstairs, and then I took my toiletries last, leaving a lot of my clothes in one of the other closets in the house, and then I walked out. I wanted everyone in the house to be asleep when I walked out, but there was one lady who was still awake, and she was in the kitchen. She was busy cleaning the kitchen. I decided at that moment, this is do or die. It's either I'm going to leave today or, you know, I'm stuck here. So I acted as if I didn't see her. I took the remote key, the one that opens the garage. I let myself out of the door. I quickly ran to my bag. I ran out of the gate. I told the cab driver to wait.
All right, so she was obviously one of the lucky ones, to get away. So just quickly wrapping up this whole discussion, the question of rape culture has also come to the fore. In South Africa, the question has been asked, do we promote a don't get raped culture, or should we be promoting a do not rape culture?
I think we should be promoting a do not rape, because there are so many victims out there that are raped for many reasons. And a lot of times they are questioned, and when they are questioned, it's said, but you dressed like this, or you dressed like that, or why did you do this, or where did you go there? And actually, we should be free to be able to walk where we want to and not have the risk of being raped. So I really think advocacy should be done in terms of rape, for South Africa especially.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Lee.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.